Hey everybody, welcome to our channel. In this video and in this video series, we're going to be discussing all of our juicy theories and the details of Presumed Innocent on Apple TV, and we're very excited to get into it. We also have a podcast called Men's Search for Meaning, where we chat about and explore all kinds of relatable concepts and facts of life. So if you enjoy the discussion, then subscribe and be sure to check out some of our other videos on the channel. All right, episode 3, just as exciting as the last have been, if not more, because we're getting deeper and deeper into the story, and those key little kernels are popping out as we go. And I continue to be very excited by this, and really pleased with how the story is crafted, the way all these different characters fit together, the themes that they're exploring, the uncertainty that we have as the viewer. I just find so particularly exciting. So yeah, what stood out to you? What's top of mind after this episode 3?
Well, I mean, obviously the cliffhanger is very interesting. Like, what the heck is Rusty's son Kyle doing there? Like, that's just brand new information, and now I have to think about his whole character and the way he acted in this last episode, and how upset he is, and what he meant about the plea deal in the context of like, is he the murderer? I mean, that's just a bit mind blowing. However, that's not the main thing on my mind. So I was very struck by B's little flirtation with the bartender, and then her friend being like, "Have a fling. You know, this is your time to take care of yourself." I don't know if you were interested in that, but that stood out to me.
Yeah, that did stand out to me as well. Her flirtation with the bartender, his flirtation back, I thought was interesting, and she seemed not opposed to it. Perhaps some of that was the inhibitions of the alcohol or the stress of the circumstances and everything. But yeah, it did stand out, and I'm curious if that's going to be an isolated incident or if more will come of that. And the comment that her friend Lorraine made, I thought was interesting because they seem to be in different places in their lives. Like Lorraine is maybe 10 plus years older than Barbara. I'm not really sure what their ages are supposed to be. But she did this
Hmm.
thing that I find interesting, which was it's good to see you smile again. You're so young and beautiful that you should feel like that every day. And it's interesting because the thing that I think that she's doing is she's older, and it's like she's talking to herself in the past is how I interpret that. Like she's giving an unrealistic standard to Barbara for how she's supposed to live her life. You should be smiling all the time. You should always be happy. It's like oftentimes when we give advice to people that we are very fond of, we tend to give very biased advice or not very balanced advice for some reason. And that's what I see happening here. It's like it's an unrealistic standard that she should be happy and smiling all the time just because she's young. It's like that's the life we want for other people to have or something. Have you noticed that kind of thing, or did that stand out to you? Because that comment, I was like, oh, I need to remember this because it's kind of bad advice in a way. It gives an unrealistic standard to someone that they should just be happy all the time because they're younger than their friend is or something. It's very strange.
Did she say all the time? I didn't pick up on the all the time part. I definitely remember the smile.
She said something like, "You're so young and beautiful, you should," I think she said, "You should feel like that all the time." I really think she said like such an absolute, and it's really bad advice. It's like that kind of thing that it's friendly. It's like it demonstrates that she cares about her, but it's a very unrealistic standard that can cause people to perhaps
Yeah.
feel less satisfied with their life overall because they're like, "Oh, should I be happy all the time? Am I not happy?"
Yeah. Um, okay, just because I didn't hear the all the time, I didn't have that same reaction.
Yeah.
But there was another thing she said that I had a similar
Oh, we're really
reaction to,
drilling
which
down
is,
into this one.
yeah, I know. I don't know why, but this really stands out. You asked what stood
Yeah,
out,
yeah,
and this is it. I'm sure a lot of other things did too, but this lingered in my
yeah,
mind. So her friend Lorraine said to her, Rusty isn't the man you married
yeah.
at the end of that scene. And that really bothered me because that felt like the definition of gaslighting. It's when you take the world that the person lives in and you dismantle a piece of it and you say, you have been thinking something this entire
Hmm.
time that was always wrong. That is a very powerful thing to do to somebody's
Yeah.
mind. So if you could actually imagine, if you could go there with Lorraine and imagine that this is a separate human being than the man she married, in that he's so different now that it's almost like a different man. It doesn't count. You're not even cheating.
Hmm.
That was a different marriage. That guy's gone now. I mean, that's a there are times to say that, but that's a very powerful gaslighting kind of thing to
Yeah.
say. I mean, look, unless you agree with it, I just feel like, no, we're not there yet. We're in that through sickness and hardship till death do we
Yeah.
part
Yeah, well, I feel
part
very
of
strongly
it.
that she's just giving bad advice now because that's two things in one very short conversation, a 1 minute conversation, two things that led her to an unrealistic approach to her life and just really shitting on Rusty, I guess. She's clearly friends with Barbara before Rusty, so I can understand her being upset with the circumstances of the affair and whatnot. However, it's not in Barbara's best advantage or best interest to hear this advice. And oh, what was the other piece that I want to say? Yeah, I don't know. I guess she's just not. She's like trying to be such a good friend that she's actually being harmful to her. Oh, and like Barbara has changed. Barbara is not the person Rusty married. They're indicating they got married at
Right,
an
right.
early age, and like, yes, naturally, both of them have changed and evolved as people should. But she's really weaponizing that stance, or just applying it to the fact that, like, oh, he had an affair. He is now, that is the entirety of his personality. That is all the person that he is, and therefore he's bad, and therefore I am going to war against him subtly through our friendship.
Right, right. And I can almost picture women watching this discussion and saying, like, how are you defending him? I know I'm
Yeah.
just throwing up a false, character here, but I can imagine that. So I feel compelled to say that it would be her right to say, I want to leave him for cheating, or, certainly feeling like, wow, our marriage is just hanging on by a thread because, what he did was a complete violation of their marriage and
Hmm.
horrible. It's just that this two wrongs don't make a right thing comes up for
Hmm.
me. If you then cheat, you're not just getting back fair is fair. There's something, you're adding poison to the
Hmm.
well. Better that you take care of yourself in another way. Certainly take care of yourself. You're going through an emotional train wreck right now,
Hmm.
but I don't think doing something, cheating back is a good way to go. It would be nice for you to just stay steady as like a faithful
Hmm.
person who adheres to your commitment to your partner the whole time. And if you decide to leave him or say, I want to do that, then that's
Yeah.
different. But to just do it, I don't think that's the right path for her. And so, yeah, I think her friend was giving her harmful
Yeah.
advice.
And I think
So,
it's safe to
yeah,
say that
that,
that goes both ways. That if she was the one that cheated and he was the one that was going to have an affair, that advice would still stand. It's like that doing something like that as retribution is just making a bad situation worse, even though it might feel
mhm.
like you're doing something for yourself. In that, if you value your family and whatnot, know that that's going to make things worse. That's not going to balance the scales.
Yeah.
It's going to make the water even rougher. We'll get right back to the video, but first we want to remind you that if you're enjoying the discussion, to please hit that like and subscribe button, and also to check out our podcast, Men's Search for Meaning, on this same channel, where we explore and get into all kinds of relatable things about life. So if you want to spend some more time with us, check out those episodes too after this one, and let's get back to it. Something I want to jump into from there, speaking about Rusty's guilt, at least in Lorraine's mind. One of the exciting themes about this show for me is how much they play with the viewer's perception of Rusty, because they position him as the main character. And I can't think of many examples. I can't think of any examples. I'm sure there are some, but examples where the main character, who has likable qualities, is the villain. I can't think of a story that takes place that way. Again, I'm sure they're probably out there, but they're drawing us near to him. They're showing positive attributes. He has a nice family. Yes, he's made some mistakes, but he's a good person. He's not guilty. But they're trying to simultaneously make him look as guilty as possible at the same time. And I find that so interesting, because I don't know if you feel this way, but as the viewer, I'm like, did he do it? it's possible. Like maybe this is just going to be a crazy twist, and he just snapped and he did it. But then at the same time, I'm like, no, he couldn't have done it. He doesn't seem like he did it. But I really don't know, and it's not like I just simply don't know. I can see both sides as being possible, and I don't often feel that way in a show. Usually, it's not as nuanced, or there's not as fine of a line there. But I really enjoy that it's so hard to tell. I like that they're kind of toying with us in that way because it makes it a more exciting ride to be along for. Do you feel that same way?
I don't feel the same way. I mean,
Interesting.
yeah, so okay, I feel the same way that you initially said, which is they've gotten us so close to this character and keep us guessing about whether he did
Yeah.
something horrific. But for some reason, I can't allow any possibility that he committed the murder into my
Mm.
mind. And I don't mean I have trouble with it. I just mean all my little micro reads of his character, his intonations, the way he talks about her murder, his relationships with people, all of them read as he's an intense guy. He's trapped in a life that he has conflicting feelings about. But I don't get murder. Now I don't really know what murder looks
Hmm.
like, to be honest. Like certainly some sort of sociopathic characteristics or explosive anger, or to know that in the past he was like beaten senselessly as a child or something like
Hmm.
that. I'm looking for something that feels like something really extreme or sociopathic is in his character, and I have not seen that. Not even like a work ethic and an intensity that's sociopathic. Just
Yeah.
you know, like a hardworking prosecutor is what he strikes me as. So it's very hard for me to imagine he did it, and I'm struck by how the show keeps um, having him defend himself, having the other characters defend him, and yet I believe them. I'm not seeing it as a
Yeah.
misdirection. So I don't know what you
That
think of
does
that.
seem like what I think they may have been going for, or what they could have been going for. So do you see the other side of that? So the way I positioned it was, is he guilty? Is he not guilty? You don't see it that way. Do you see it as he's not guilty, but will he still lose the battle of public opinion? Because there are stakes here. Something's at stake. What do you think's at stake? Is that like how you can be telling the truth and people still can't, or still won't believe you sometimes? Is that what you think the angle will be?
Good question. That is one set of polls as far as what's at stake. Two polls that create tension, where either he. So right, I don't say guilty versus not guilty. It may be what you said, not guilty versus convicted guilty, and the court system is
Hmm.
problematic, or it may be um, guilty. He's guilty versus the show is bad. Like I will at this point in the show, then this could change. I would question the writers and the integrity of the show, or the believability of the show, if he's just a murderer and it's because he just got so passionate because he loves her so much and he can't have her that he's like, fuck it, I'm going to murder her. I just don't think that's within that
Yeah.
character or most people. So it would make me dislike the show. That's part of the
Uh-huh.
stakes. And then there was a third one I was thinking about. That's a possibility. I can't think of it right
Uh-huh.
now. But yeah, him being guilty is not in there.
Okay. Interesting. I'm very excited to see where it goes, because if he was guilty and they told the story well, where it didn't just feel like they withheld the truth all the way until the end, and then that's the thing that makes it make sense,
Hmm.
that would piss me off. If they led him there in a natural way that I was on board for, I would find that exciting. It wouldn't be my preferred outcome because it's a little menacing to go that direction, that totally unpredictable, unprecedented direction, but it's possible. But speaking of them toying with us, we're seeing a lot of flashbacks. A lot of flashbacks. Do you believe them all? Do you think they're all true? Because we did see one example of an untrue flashback. Raymond has a dream that he watches Rusty kill Carolyn with the fire poker. Not something he could have
Hmm.
witnessed. It's just not possible that that's something he could have seen. So they showed that we can see a flashback play out that is untrue. do you think that there are more that are that way? Like, for example, they could plant the seed that Rusty's flashbacks have been untrue, that he's been misleading himself or something like that. That possibility is there. I don't expect that to happen, but it just, that one flashback made me wonder if there are other ones that we can call into doubt, because I don't, the scene wasn't just him sitting at breakfast going, I had a dream that Rusty killed Carolyn. They could have done it that way. They wanted us to see it. They chose showing it to us, and I wonder if it's to cast doubt on other flashbacks or what's going on there. But there's a lot of potential for them to be toying with us. What do you think about that angle with the flashbacks?
I had not thought of
You're
that.
like, oh
It's
god, this
interesting.
is a lot.
I know, like, oh wow, it's another layer of complexity could
Yeah.
be at an entire other
And
layer.
I might just be projecting
Um,
my own complicated way of looking at things, but this is what is standing out to me, at least.
yeah, I think that I believe that the flashbacks are what he's thinking, not necessarily what definitely
Hmm.
happened. And I do think currently I believe they are all things that he's remembering, and I believe
Hmm.
them. However, you're right that the one way that I could get past that and disbelieve his flashbacks is if they threw some mental illness in
Mm.
there, like A Beautiful Mind, the movie A Beautiful
Hmm.
Mind. Or there's another one I saw sometime in the last like decade where it's like one of the characters was never real the whole time. He was just a
Yeah,
figment
that sounds
of their imagination. If they do that
like
shit,
Fight
then I'm going to
Club.
be like, oh my God. Oh,
The
yeah.
dude in
Yeah.
Fight Club,
Fight
we're
Club
like,
is another good
what? He
example.
wasn't. They've done that in a couple movies, but yeah, I don't like those, like they reveal it right at the end, and then it's like almost like you need to watch
Yeah.
the movie again because it's such a critical piece of information. I don't like that
Yeah.
as a storytelling element because it just feels manipulative, or like there's no way you could figure it out. No one's going to go, hey, this character's not real, like I don't think they
Yeah.
don't plant
Yeah.
the seed for that observation. But yeah, I mean, there is a precedent for that. I think that directors or storytellers, screenwriters, whoever is responsible for the crafting of this, um, they're obviously fans of other forms of media, so they are inspired by other stories and might pick and pull different elements from different other places. So it's definitely possible that we could see a recurrence of that kind of theme, but I personally hope that we don't.
Me too. Yeah. Can I move us to a different
Yeah.
subject? There's two that I want to talk about, so we can go in any order. One is um, Tommy's
Yeah.
overzealousness and what that means, and the other is Rigo's character and how she is developing as like a very
Yeah.
principled friend of
Let's
Rusty.
go Tommy and therefore Nico as well, because one of the things I wanted to come back to was just I love seeing the cracks forming between them, where it's like they're clearly
Yeah, yeah,
very
yeah.
close friends, but the scene where Nico's like, you ready for this? And Tommy's like, fuck yeah, I'm ready for it. And he's like, that's what worries me. He's like, they're gonna take advantage of your over exuberance here. It each episode I feel like has contributed a consistent element to Tommy's character development, that he's not up for it, that he's going to fall on his face, that he's capable, but he has some big failings that are going to be the undoing of him, and I'm I'm really excited to see that fall personally.
That's a cool perspective because I have viewed him through, the sympathetic lens of, Rusty being the narrator of the story I'm
Yeah.
watching. And he is both talented and vengeful, Tommy. And so I'm kind of worried about him. Like, oh my God, this guy is out to get him. He's out to get Rusty. And I really don't want to see him succeed. I hadn't thought about the fact that he's so out to get him that it could be revealed as a prejudice that could disqualify him, which is very comforting because it's like one of those things that you see happening and yet you assume other people wouldn't see it as much
Yeah.
and therefore be able to disqualify him. But it's very comforting to know that the truth could be viewed in that way. That's like a really clever angle that the show came up
Yeah.
with. I like
Well,
it,
that's
and that the character Nico came up with
yeah.
too.
A constant angle I view shows through is they are choosing for us to see this. Like maybe the
Hmm.
color of the lampshade in the background isn't a piece of the story, like there are elements to the scenes that are not consequential, but I think character development for key characters is fully intentional, and how this keeps becoming, it's a very subtle theme to a degree. Like I think it's not hard or impossible to see, but I don't think everyone would see it and think something of it. However, the repetition makes me think this is really consistent foreshadowing. And whether I'm right or wrong would be exciting if he rises to the occasion. And I guess I wouldn't want to see Rusty convicted, especially if I believe him to be innocent. But if I think about just characters individually, it would kind of be exciting to see Tommy do something like that. Someone kind of go against the odds and develop into a more evolved person. If I bring all the characters together again, no, I want to see Raymond wipe the floor with him, and I want to see Rusty get what I think is a justified, innocent verdict. But Raymond is my favorite character, and if it's Raymond versus Tommy, I want to see Raymond beat the shit out of Tommy.
Totally. Yeah. Raymond is, yeah. I don't know if you feel the same way that I mentioned the last time we recorded, which is that he's just being a real bro, and he's like a just straight direct New Yorker who's tired, who's, this is his last moment
Hmm.
to have a meaningful kind of redeeming thing that gives him
Hmm.
life. Is that the reason that
I
he's your
think so,
favorite?
yeah, and I think I see something in myself there, not in terms of the time of life, obviously, but I I feel similar to this idea that how I'm a person who's pretty good under pressure when there's a lot happening. Like that's when
Hmm.
I'm at my most clearest. So I think it's exciting to
Yep.
see someone like that kind of in the hero role, where he's maybe slowed down in his career. He wasn't fully paying attention. He lost his reelection campaign, but to see him like just on, I find very exciting, and I think that could be why. But yeah, and even they're telling us that through other characters' perspectives, where Rusty's like, "Oh, Raymond was fucking on fire," and the judge seems to respect him. It's like he really is demonstrating how he got to that place in his career. Like he must have been a very gifted lawyer, very talented or hardworking or something to get to the place that he was in. And it's kind of cool to see that break through the surface again when it's been buried deep down for a while as his career kind of
Yeah.
petered out.
It is thrilling. There is something thrilling about it. I would never have identified that as a theme
Huh.
that I desire. I just couldn't have thought of
Yeah.
that. But this idea of someone has this deep potential and then it can recede for a while and then it can come back even when it's been
Yeah.
dormant is
Yeah.
powerful. I think we all have experienced that. We all have time when we're not as
Yep.
sharp and our natural talents are not able to come out as much. And to think they can come roaring back and you can still be at that white hot
Yeah.
kind of peak feeling is very
Yeah.
exciting. Um, so, somewhat related to what we're saying, I also find myself really liking the judge and
Yeah.
Rigo, the police officer friend, both of them for their clarity of character and dedication to the
Yeah.
truth.
And did you like how the judge likes hemorrhoids? And she made some comment like, I had a mentor. Like she stops she stops the stenographer, and then she goes,
Yeah.
I had a mentor when I was starting out. He told me that every case is like a hemorrhoid, and I can enjoy hemorrhoids when properly managed. It's like, what, what is really enjoyable about a hemorrhoid?
Yeah, I was thinking about that and I was like, I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah,
Wait,
what the
what?
hell?
Like, I can't. How could you enjoy a
Yeah,
hemorrhoid when
even
in
yeah,
any
well
circumstance?
managed, whatever. It's just a hilarious thing to say. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
I also love the casting and just the character for that role. Like the very no nonsense but fair. Like to be that present and balanced. And yeah, there's just something very, even more than interesting. I was going to say interesting, but I think exciting about her character, because she really feels, she really seems up to the job. And
Yeah.
there's something, yeah, very appealing about that. There's just so many really interesting characters in here that this show stands out. among a select few of having that many characters that are this well um, connected together. It's just like the characters individually, and then the way they're all connected is like, wow, this is kind of masterful.
Yeah, I mentioned this last time, but it comes back again, which is that I think at this moment in time, I guess I don't want to say in history, but like this year and these last few years,
Hmm.
there is something very refreshing. I think we many people even feel they need this character that is dedicated to evidence and facts
Yeah.
and truth. That is a very nice thing because this kind of too much internet, overly politicized world where people just say what they need to say to win and to arouse people's
Yeah.
emotions all the time. And it seems like truth is way in the back seat. And I just think so many people, would maybe without realizing it, thirst for just like a system that, or a
Hmm.
person that respects a system that is dedicated to just what is the actual
Yeah.
truth. It's like we don't see that
That's a
that
really
much.
great perspective, and I think that's absolutely true. I see that a lot um, in my daily life. People that don't really care about what's true, they care about what makes them feel the way they want to feel, and either
Right.
reject the truth or haven't sort of practiced the sophistication for really getting to the bottom of something. I think sometimes people are dedicated to the idea of truth and they have a respect for that notion and therefore they approach it with that respect. And some people just don't have that respect and they think, nah, I don't care what you say. I get to believe whatever I want to. And I really dislike that approach because it's very arrogant and very self-centered. And so yeah, I think that's a great take on why this character might feel like such a breath of fresh air because she is, and what better
Yeah.
person to be involved in this story. So yeah, I totally agree with you there.
Yeah, and I think that's a good transition to talk about Rigo.
Yeah.
She is also showing something similar, which is like a really strong moral character or moral compass, where she was directly threatened by her boss. Stay out of the path of this case. You were nothing to do with this
Yeah.
case. And then a few seconds pass. She gets on the phone and she's like, open up the evidence
Yeah.
files, show me some stuff. Like she's just completely
She's
ignores him
confident.
because what he's saying is wrong. She's
Yeah.
confident. I love that. I was like,
And she
badass.
seems like well versed in the game, like the interface between those aspects of the legal system, sort of criminal justice or the police side of things and the court of law side of things, work hand in hand together. And she seems well versed.
Hmm.
He made a play to try to intimidate her because she is an ally to Rusty, and he tried to make it seem like she's just doing the wrong thing, not that she's helping his opponent, which I think is what he's threatened by. But yeah, the way she didn't back down and how she seems totally comfortable to defend herself should the need arise. Nico came in a
Hmm.
little more sophisticated and was like, "All right, let's be a little more measured here. I play
Hmm.
poker with your union rep, so he's like a little
Hmm.
more sophisticated. Tommy's kind of like the bulldog, and Nico understands. He doesn't seem to have the experience, but he understands how to play the game. He is more of a sophisticated character than Tommy is.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I do like Rigo a lot, and I do like her as an ally specifically to Rusty because she she's definitely human. We saw some of her struggles throughout the earlier development of this season, but she's remained loyal and she seems to have her convictions about that, and she's not going to back down, at least not to threats that are as baseless as the ones they made were, perhaps something they could do would
Hmm.
get her to stop. But yeah, so far she seems to be very involved.
Yeah, and I thought she was just the evidence collector. Like she was just somewhere in the chain of this department that helps to gather evidence related to crimes and prosecute. But seeing her moral clarity
Hmm.
is really nice. That's quite a strong
Hmm.
development because just we didn't know that about her, as far as I remember.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, again, another respectable character that it makes sense we would enjoy.
mhm.
Um, two
Yeah.
things I want to come back to again. The order doesn't matter. One is the associate on Rusty's legal team. Her
Hmm.
perspective towards him, or her behavior towards him, I find interesting. There's not a lot going on yet, but there's some things I'm cluing into. And then also the way that the show is exploring this court of public opinion, where they show Barbara at Kyle's baseball game, and she's just trying to live her life and enjoy her son performing well in his sport. And she's getting glared at by everyone in the stands just for being there, and she's not even the one on trial, but it goes to show that sometimes, even being involved in a case like this, you come out innocent, your reputation is changed forever. Because there are some people that will just not believe the verdict regardless. And it's very interesting to think about that, because a lot of people are damaged. And I can't think of a better way to do it to avoid that from happening. But a lot of people are damaged in that process. And that's definitely happening here, like that. It shows some of the innocence of the daughter to be like, you're going to win the Super Bowl of all murder cases, and then we're going to go to Disneyland, just kind of as if everything will go back to normal, and I think they're going to have to move. Like, things are going to be different for them
Mm.
permanently, even if
Yeah.
he did nothing wrong. And that's kind of terrifying that can happen to people. It's like what we talked about in one of the earlier episodes, where innocent people go to jail all the time, so it's not just about what's true. It's about I don't even know how to say what the other side of that coin would be, but yeah, I guess of the two things I mentioned, we'll jump into this one first, since I already started doing so. But what do you think about that?
Um, it unfortunately strikes me as fairly accurate how quickly people would change if you were involved in a situation like that. I mean, it's unclear to me whether a number of people would be sympathetic to her, given that she, publicly is the victim of cheating and her husband may have murdered. Let's say in most people's mind, he murdered somebody because, people see an accusal and they almost treat that as the same thing as it being true. But she would appear as a victim, so everyone glaring at her seemed a little unrealistic to
Yeah,
me. But at the same time, I do believe that the court of public opinion is very harsh and very
yeah,
swift, and that just felt realistic in an uncomfortable
yeah.
way to me.
It's just an interesting thing to see. This feels like a maybe what I'm finding so fascinating about the show is it's a very detailed view into an area of life that I don't get to see into. It's like there's plenty of legal drama shows, but they're very sensationalized, and I don't think accuracy is important. It's possible that, people will say many aspects of this, people that are in that world will say many aspects of this are sensationalized or not accurate. But I do tend to think that they're going for accuracy compared to some of these other shows that are just, much sillier and more about high emotions and everything. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and I'm enjoying peering into that. So, other piece, what do you think? And let me know if you want me to go first. But what do you think about the relationship that is budding, the professional relationship that is budding between I forget what her name is, the associate.
Maya
Yeah,
Winslow.
between Maya and Rusty. I think we've only seen really one scene besides their introduction, but there's a scene where she comes in and she's like, "Did you love her?" Which seems really
Hmm.
unprofessional to me. It's so blunt, it's so unprefaced, there's no context given, that how could he properly understand what it is she's trying to do there? And she unfolds those layers very slowly, but I feel like I'm seeing a very measured doubt in her. Obviously, she's good at her job, so she knows that the facts matter and that what you think about something can very well be untrue down the line. But I'm picking up on some measured doubt or some disdain or something like that. Did you see that as well from her, or did you interpret it differently?
Hmm. Well, I thought that she was smart. I didn't mind her question the same way you did. I was like, yeah, she has to. deeply understand. She's got the person who she needs to
Yeah.
defend right there in front of her. He's circumstantially as incriminated as a person can be. So she needs to get pretty deep into understanding what's
It
going
just
on.
seems like she's in a junior role and she doesn't know him. Like if Raymond came in and was like, "Did you love her?" Like I wouldn't bat an eye because they're good friends. They've known each other for a long time. But for her to come
Yep.
in and not say, "Hey, do you have a minute? I want to talk to you about something," like what I would expect from an associate who's unfamiliar with someone, they would pad their interactions a bit more as we do with people we don't know. So just to come in and bluntly say, "Did you love her?" felt like
Hmm.
there was something strange about it.
Yeah. True. It was a little strange. It felt very
Yeah.
personal, but I thought it was
Okay.
relevant. So I kind of was a fan of it. And yeah, she had some doubt, but I didn't know what direction it was
Uh-huh.
in. She's just trying to figure out like what's going on, and she's maybe expressing the same sort of doubt that we as viewers have, which is like, um, well, like what was going on? You were so in love with her, you were kind of obsessed with
Hmm.
her. What exactly is going on here? I don't know. That was my
Yeah.
take.
Well, I'd be curious to see how their relationship develops because there's a bluntness to her that I find suspicious. I
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. I want to hear about
Yeah,
that.
I think we'll just need to see. I think what I was saying
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
was my thoughts on that. But I trust Raymond to select a capable person. So the fact that he sort of vetted her to some degree does mean a lot because he does seem to know his stuff when he's up to the task, which he is on this case. So yeah, perhaps it's just reaching for things. I think I like to try to find evidence of stuff as early as I can in shows. There's something exciting about that to me. So perhaps I'm overactive imagination there, but we'll see. Are there any other themes from this episode that you wanted to come back to before we or to bring up before we wrap up this episode?
I don't think so. I think we covered it pretty
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, that was my mental list of stuff that I wanted to come back to. I guess for the next episode, it's kind of it's predictable in a way, the way they're peeling back these layers, or maybe it's just a very measured rate. There's something about it that doesn't seem totally unpredictable, even though it's full of surprises. What are you most excited about seeing potentially in the next episode? Like, what's the piece where you're like, I really want to know blank?
Hmm. Well, I really want to know what Kyle was
Yeah,
doing there that night. And yeah, the actual mystery itself of what happened that night and who else was there. And maybe like Michael, Caroline's son, his involvement, why he's taking so many pictures, like something about what happened that night, I guess the very core
yeah,
mystery. I remain pretty fixated on it, I must
yeah,
say.
yeah. Perhaps Kyle and Michael are secret lovers and that they were meeting for a late night rendezvous.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Very excited for episode 4. These have been a lot of fun. Let us know in the comments if you're enjoying this. If you have any theories that you think we're missing, we would love to hear what you guys have to think, or what you guys think or have to say. Um, as we mentioned earlier on, we do a podcast on this channel called Men's Search for Meaning, where we explore relatable aspects of life and if you enjoy the way we think about things, the way we talk, we think you'll enjoy that. So check that out as well. And lastly, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to support the channel and see more of our videos. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we look forward to seeing you for episode 4.